Did you know that archaeologists are extremely organized, and they always dig square holes on a grid system to better keep track of everything they find? I'm Bob from World 5 List, and I'm here to show you 10 amazing recent archaeological discoveries. Number 10. The Robinson Terminal. Now, if there's one thing that the city of Alexandria, Virginia is known for, it's the history of the importance of this American city. Now, basically, most of its history lies in the shipping industry, as well as the tobacco planting, which made up a large portion of Alexandria's economy. There was much dispute about whether or not that trade should be allowed on the Potomac River, and whether or not the ship should be allowed passage in the late 1700s. Now, during this time, the War of 1812 had begun, and in 1814, the raid on Alexandria would take place by a British fleet. This raid would be successful in allowing the British to raid stores and warehouses of all their flour, tobacco, cotton, wine, and sugar. You know, the important things in life. Now, a new discovery of 3 Revolutionary War-era ships were found by archaeologists in Virginia, and it's an important discovery for analyzing America's history. Not only does it allow people to see what a ship from the period would have looked like, but it also gives them a glimpse of early building foundations and techniques, as well as showing them some important artifacts, which may have been used during the time Robinson Landing was an important asset to the community and the country for exporting and importing trading goods. Number 9. The Lost Dark Age Kingdom of Galloway. An excavation would be conducted around Trustees Hill Fort at Gatehouse of Fleet in Dumfries and Galloway. Wow, that's a mouthful. And it was revealed that around AD 600, the summit of the hill would be used as a fort, which proves that it was part of high-status settlements during the early medieval period. Now, there were Pictish carvings, normally found in the south, carved along the bedrock of the walls, and so archaeologists then decided to dig just a little bit more, no pun intended, into the history of the area. The excavation also uncovered a workshop producing high-quality metalworks of gold, silver, bronze, and iron, which then linked this area in a trade network with Western Britain, Ireland, and continental Europe. It does show that merchants were actually coming toward the Galloway coast because of materials like copper and lead being common in the area. Trustees Hill is the only place in recent years which has strong evidence to support that there was ever a place for royal inauguration, as well as being a site where the local social hierarchy existed in medieval Scotland and on the Galloway coast. Number 8. Giant Colossus unearthed. Now, everyone makes mistakes, and this also includes archaeologists and historians. Now, a major archaeological discovery would be found in the slums of Cairo, buried in a river that was a 26-foot statue believed to be the pharaoh Ramses II, who had ruled more than 3,000 years ago. However, it turns out that the statue may have actually been of a different pharaoh, one by the name of Psamtik, who had ruled 400 years after Ramses II. Now, it was originally believed to be Ramses because of its close proximity to his temple in the ancient city of Heliopolis. So then here's a question for you. How did archaeologists discover that they had made a mistake in its identification? Well, as it turns out, in the past, it was part of a royal protocol that each pharaoh had to have 5 titles followed by 5 names. Upon the discovery of the second title, the Nepti title, there was a picture of a vulture and a cobra, along with the name Neb-Ah. The only pharaoh to ever be referred to as Neb-Ah was Pharaoh Psamtik, who ruled Egypt for 54 years. Number 7. An ancient prenup. But before I go on with number 7, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications because you need to get more awesome videos like this one in the future. Now, upon first glance, this document might look like some kind of romantic Egyptian poetry or some kind of perfectly complex ancient code of law. But as it turns out, this 8-foot-long scroll was written over 2,000 years ago and was a form of hieroglyphic shorthand, which came from an ancient prenup. Now, it's not the most romantic sort of thing, but I thought that prenups were fairly modern pieces of documents, but it turns out I was incorrect. The document promises 1.2 pieces of silver, as well as 36 bags of grain every year for the rest of your ex-wife's life. Now, prenups were created well before we ever thought they were, and were made so that wives would always be provided for, even if their marriage failed. It was an interesting archaeological discovery, as people thought ancient Egyptian women were not granted any kind of rights. They were, however, allowed a few rights like filing for divorce, being granted alimony, as long as they had that prenup first. The ancient Egyptian government also didn't really care if your marriage was a success or a failure. In fact, you could remarry as fast as you wanted to after the separation. No couples counseling in this time period. Number 6. Easter Island did not destroy itself through ecocide. Now, for quite some time, historians, archaeologists, and scientists would come together as a community, believing that the native Polynesian inhabitants of Easter Island in the Pacific Ocean had committed ecocide, destroying their forests and devastating their food supply and soil in order to basically starve themselves. Now, as it turns out, this may not be factual, because it was just a hypothesis of what happened to the people of Easter Island. In fact, Binghamton University professor of anthropology Carl Lipo said that his team of researchers actually found that people had consumed a significant amount of marine life in their diet. Now, throughout history, people were turning toward food found in the water as well as on the land, and these people had the tools to enrich their soil by adding bedrock, which they discovered acted as a natural fertilizer and could actually support their crops. As it turns out, the people of Easter Island were much more intelligent than we ever gave them credit for, and they were even able to change their soil by adding fertilizer, allowing it to be useful. This new information gives way to many more questions than answers about the people and how they may have conducted their day-to-day lives, and exactly where and how they stopped existing. But now I know that they didn't commit ecocide. Number 5. The long-lost temple of Artemis. Now, sometimes researchers and archaeologists go by their instincts, and in this case, it turns out they'd be pretty spot on when searching for a mysterious hidden temple dedicated to an ancient deity, and they did have the ancient temple of Artemis pinned down to one particular Greek island. Now, the open-air shrine turned out to be one of the most important holy sites in central Greece at the time of its existence. The modern town retained the name of its past, which was derived from a local man named Erymanthos, whose reverence for Artemis was famous. The town even held a festival in honor of Artemis, which attracted worshippers from all across the region. Sadly, however, only the foundations of the sanctuary still remain intact because it was finally destroyed in 401 AD and hidden for quite some time. The temple to Artemis at Ephesus in Turkey was at one time one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and it joined the ranks of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, and many more. Now, it's a remarkable construction of classical antiquity, and it's pretty impressive for something that only has the foundation left of what once existed. Number 4. The world's largest dinosaur footprint. Now, who would have guessed that Australia was actually a real-life Jurassic Park at one time? If you didn't guess it, mate, well, I don't blame you. I'm sorry for my terrible Australian impression. It would be around 130 million years ago, according to scientists, when dinosaurs decided to get a little bit cozy on the river delta of what is now the remote Kimberley region of Western Australia. And you can find evidence at the low tides along the beaches of the Dampier Peninsula. It comes in the form of thousands of fossilized footprints that date back to what scientists believe to be at least 100 million years ago. Now, some of the tracks are the only evidence of particular dinosaurs even ever having lived in Australia. Dinosaurs like the Stegosaurus, along with sauropods. Now, there was one sauropod print that measured 5 foot 9 inches and was believed to be the largest dino track that's ever been recorded. The former record stood at about 3 feet long and was discovered in Bolivia. So not only did I discover dinosaurs may have made their home in other places, but they've also been larger than previously believed. Number 3. The long-lost Declaration of Independence with different signature placements. Now listen, there's rarely any drama that occurs when it comes to archival documents, but when it does, it should most certainly make headlines. A piece of the Declaration of Independence had been stashed away in a West Sussex record office in England. Not only was this document incredibly important to American history, but it also proves that the signatures were changed up a bit in a copy of the original government document. The document was merely a copy and not really a legitimate government form that was created, and so a dispute has risen about the heart of American politics. Was the country actually founded by a unitary national people, or perhaps a collection of states and representatives? Number 2. Pyramid fit for a princess. Now, have you heard the saying that a castle is fit for a princess? Well, what about a pyramid? At the site of Dashur in Egypt, a 38,000-year-old pyramid with an alabaster block and the name of a pharaoh was discovered. The first one bearing his name was found in 1957, and he was called Amenemhotep. Now, why all the fuss about a second pyramid with this ancient pharaoh's name? Well, as it turns out, most pharaohs don't get 2 pyramids. As of now, archaeologists and scientists can only speculate that this second pyramid was most likely used as a tomb for the pharaoh's daughter. Number 1. Renaissance couple buried with their hearts. Now, it does sound like some kind of weirdly romantic Romeo and Juliet story, but it's something that only a Renaissance couple could have conceived as a remotely suitable way to reciprocate one's love. But what exactly am I talking about? Well, one wife wanted the heart of her husband buried with her, so she had it removed, even though both their coffins would be buried 125 miles apart. They say that distance does make the heart grow fonder. Wow, what better way to show your love than this? Or at least that's what they thought at the time. This couple's interesting burial methods just proved to researchers that people were still using old practices at a time when they thought that burial rites had become much more secularized. Thanks for watching. What were some of your favorite discoveries? Let me know about it in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to World 5, and I'll see you next time.